Okay, so somebody asked me the other day, well, then tell me, what is the path to union? Tell me, how do you get there? You said that you hear other people might even know it and not be willing to share it. Why didn't you just tell me straight away? And it's because the video was already long enough. But I've been saying it for many, many years. And so here's the TLDR, okay? If you're like, I'm not listening to this whole video, when are you going to make me wait till the end? No, it's not even going to be at the end. I mean, it will be, but I'm also going to say it right now. Light work. Straight up, if you want to get into union, you need to get into your purpose, because if you can get into your purpose, then you can meet your person at your purpose. That's probably where they're going to be too. Trying to chase after them means you're always going to be one step behind. Trying to run away from them means you're always going to be one step ahead. But if you go towards your destiny, then you'll meet them there. Now, that's easier said than done, and I understand that. You know what I mean? Like I get where our gifting and the meaning of life and the meaning of our life and our purpose and why we're here, it's very, very challenging if that's not something that you've always been attuned to. Like, I understand now that the reason that I've always been attuned to it is because it's a part of my life's work to help people achieve their purpose. Okay. So some of us are more attuned to it because it's a part of our job. And then others might even be more attuned to it because maybe you have such a grand purpose or a distinct purpose that you really, really needed to understand that it was something you were supposed to be seeking so you wouldn't miss it, right? But I think for the average person, yeah, especially if you're an average person who the only reason you would even consider caring about a purpose is because you know you might have to if you're a twin. Like, why would you care? Why would you want to really push to figure that out, especially if it doesn't even guarantee union like tomorrow? Like, so I know that hearing me basically like preach about light work all these years has made people kind of feel like, oh, that's just your shtick. And it's like, well, no, that's actually not. I don't really. No, I don't. I don't. Do I have a shtick? I'm trying to. I don't think I have a shtick. Do I? Because I don't think any of it is kind of like just a saying to me. I came here to share information. I joined the collective with intention to get to the bottom of the questions I was asking that I found no one had the answers to, but they kept saying they did, and then they would just talk in circles. And so I decided I was going to come into this space and figure it out. And I did. And I know that I did because anytime someone finally pushes past their own breaking point boundaries, their own fears, whatever it is that's stopping them, when they push past that, not only does amazing things happen in their life, but most of the time they get into union shortly after. It's very rare that they don't, and usually it's clearly because the divine masculine still wasn't ready. But they're happier. In fact, they're at peace. And so I'm just going to keep it real with you. If you're not interested in light work, there may be other ways. I don't know if those paths actually work or not, but I know my path does. So what does it look like? How do you get there? I think that the first thing that happens is you're like, what's happening? Okay. And so if you've been asking this question about your person, there might be a part of you that's also feeling like it's tied to a bigger part of your life. And at this point, I personally believe we should always be trying to enter the 4D. We need to go into the gap between the spirit and the flesh. And I think that many people attempt to do that when they go through like readings and astrology. But if they don't know what they're looking for and they're just kind of like dipping in and dipping out, dipping in and dipping out, like looking for answers, but not actually sitting in that space and saying, this is uncomfortable. I feel like I'm out of my body, but I know this is what I'm supposed to do. Like if they're not willing to do that, then they won't really ever see the value of the 4D because they're not really there. But I've mastered it. I've spent so much time there. I used to call it the realm of synchronicity. I didn't even know where I was until I was pulled out and shown, look, look. And it was like so clear. So after you've asked, okay, what just happened to me? This is where you realize that it's real. but you still aren't going to just necessarily know right away what to do. Even me, someone who has been a very purpose driven person my entire life, I was like, what is that supposed to mean, you know? And so this is where you're going to start to exert a little bit of effort, but you're already going to be out of your comfort zone. And then there's going to be a slip. There's going to be a moment where you thought that maybe you were walking into something miraculous, but then it brought you back into the real world or showed you that it was different than you thought, or there was just something that made you think, I don't think that this is for me. I don't think that this is something I can handle. And again, if you have been focusing mostly on your person and the relationship, it's going to be typically connected to them. But some divine feminines do try to actually run, even if they don't know run or chaser, but they don't even realize they're trying to get away, right? They run. And in that time, I think it's okay to run. I think it's okay to be afraid. But I also think that once you get your bearings, you should return to being brave, okay? Because the longer you wait to push past the next step, the more likely it is that you'll never leave these early kind of phases of this journey. The reason why is because the next thing is it kind of feels like you're restarting. It almost feels like you were in a big circle, but it's a trick. This is almost like, I don't know if you've ever heard about this, but colleges there's like a rumor that colleges will make certain classes really, really hard to weed people out. They're literally called weed out classes. And they're usually things like anatomy and physiology. So if you want to be a doctor, just know that they're going to find the most challenging class that exists and they're going to make sure that it's almost impossible to pass it. So I'm just letting you know now. Imagine being in school, imagine being in college, and I'm talking about college, right? Meaning you've gone through high school, you've gone through years and years and years of education, and maybe you even took anatomy and physiology in high school or something, right? Like, why does it feel so hard? Why is passing this one class so hard? And it's because you have to shed everything that would make you a bad doctor. So do you get my gist though? It's like everything that would make you think that this journey is easy and that this isn't even a big deal and all this different stuff, it's out the window. When you have to go through this challenge that makes you feel small and inadequate and makes you question everything about yourself, once you overcome it, it's like you can't be sent back. But until you overcome it, you're looping in this feeling of, I think I'm back at the beginning and I don't know if I want to start this. Meanwhile, you're not even in the beginning. You're like a third of the way through kind of thing, you know? So once you get out, I will admit going through that circle, especially the longer you're in it, the longer you're feeling like it's just never going to change. Some people think, I've already healed. I've arrived. This is it. A lot of people will think like that lower phase of being a twin flame is it, which is why if they do leave, they think like, ugh, twin flames is so toxic. And it's like, you never left the ground. What are you talking about? After that, you are very, very disoriented. Now, mind you, all of this is taking place in the 4D. All of this is taking place in this kind of weird space. Like you're walking in your physical body, but the 5D is all around you. And you're just like, what is going on here? And yet, answers are coming, things are changing. And you start to really ask yourself at this point, you know what? Why am I here? And I don't just mean on the planet. I mean like, why am I even here in this moment? Why am I in the 4D? Why did I just go through this loop and fight my way out of it? How did I get this far and still feel so lost? You have to get totally lost in the 4D before you can even begin to understand. Why? Because that's when the vision begins. You start to have these psychic or like prophetic visions where you can see everything. And that is where it really, really hurts. And divine masculines go through this too on their own path, on their own journey. I've explained it before. I've tried to tell people when the divine masculine starts to realize who they really are and gets kind of upset and embarrassed and ashamed, and all of a sudden they're just, there's all this on their shoulders because they're looking back at their life and realizing how much they messed up and how many things were their fault and all this. Well, that's their version of it because they're a protector, they're a provider. They feel like trash. But we're their nurturer. And to know what we've poured into people, that's what comes through here. The vision that comes through says, not only are you not going to be repaid for that from the people that you gave to, but on the other side of this, you're going to still have to give and to share and to love people. And I'm not going to show you, not me, but like divine, right? I'm not going to show you where in there you get blessed back. I'm not going to show you the reciprocity. I'm going to show you why you went through what you went through and how it's going to help you keep helping. But do you see how this starts to shift into light work? And you're not the only one that goes through that. Your divine masculine also is being prepared for reunion through purpose. But this is where the magic really starts to happen. Because the beauty of the vision is that even if it's not perfect, it's so beautiful that it's dang near perfect and you want it. And at this point, just when you start to think, how? How could I fulfill this? How could I be that person? Boom, divine activates your gifts. And I don't mean little activations here and there that you think, did I just have an activation? I mean, there's no question. And now you understand, wow, surviving all this means I am here for a reason. And now not only do I know the reason, but I'm being shown the season. And there is this powerful understanding that comes over you, and you say, wow, this is what I was made for. This is who I'm supposed to be. That's why this person is my partner. This is what we're supposed to do together. And you enter this phase of divine creation. And that is when divine finally says, now I'm going to let you out of the 4D. Now, some people can get into relationship in the 4D. Some people will experience some weird 5D stuff. Some people will experience some weird 3D stuff. But remember this, the reunion you're searching for doesn't happen in the 5D. That already is. The reunion you're searching for happens in the 3D. That's why those random moments and dreams and shared, experiences and telepathy and all that is not enough. You want 3D. The 5D is cool, but after a while it gets old. You want 3D. Reunion happens in the 3D, not the 4D. Now you can get into union and you can go into the 4D. Mr. Lightwork and I experienced that. But most people's job is to process their world outside of the 3D, and they can't get to the 5D the way they can access the 4D. The 5D typically is delivering to you, but the 4D is the closest you can get to that dimension while still being in your body and still being awake and aware. I believe that divine feminines who have to go through all these different phases and still come out of it and back to the 3D before they can get into union actually have the most beautiful union planned for them, because you're going to be in a place to actually appreciate it. But if you get into union at any point along here, you still have to go through this process to be fully activated as a light worker, as a twin flame, and so does your person. If you don't know why you're here, if you don't know what twin flames are, if you're not really certain, it's time to get clear. It's time to get certain, okay? It's going to change everything for you. You don't have to keep questioning everything and wondering who's telling you the truth and who's lying and all that. That's why so many of the assessments and stuff that I make are designed for you to do on your own so that you can come to your own conclusions. I want divine feminines everywhere to be able to follow their own voice way more than following anybody else, even me. And the way that you do that is you master the 4D. I really know that this video is probably going to confuse some people, but for those that it didn't, I hope it blesses you. Peace.